Feels slightly like I'm doing the news here. Now the news at 10, Phil's rankings of Doctor Who Season 10 are in. Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel. I do videos on Doctor Who and other cultural stuff like TV and film and books and stuff. But today we're focusing on Doctor Who because, better late than never, I'm doing a rundown on my top 10. No, not even top 10. My top Series 10. My rundown of Series 10 episodes in ranking order. My ranking of Series 10. That's what I'm doing. Yep, I know the series ended months ago, but this is better late than never. Now, in preparation for this, I delved back into my own videos to see what score I gave each episode out of 10. I didn't actually rank all of the episodes. There were 2 episodes I didn't give a score to at all, because I just forgot. Also, disclaimer, I make no promises to stick to the rankings that they came out in based on my score. We reflect back on what we've seen, and looking back over the whole thing can sometimes influence how we think of individual episodes within that when we compare them to other later ones, or, when we just look at it in relation to the whole arc. So anyone that's thinking of checking back on what I scored things and gone, hold on, that's a different order than you're putting them in now, then that is why, and don't be so pernickety. Yep, pernickety person, you. So, let's crack this open. So, at number 12, we have Extremis. The whole Monk trilogy was a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest, and this was the worst of the bunch, in my opinion. It was the worst of the whole season, in my opinion. And it did not give me hope for the rest of the 3-parter. It was all a bit silly. And the fact that none of it actually happened, other than in a computer simulation, I don't know, just didn't work for me. And I thought it was a disappointing start to a 3-parter. Number 11, I'm putting Smile. Now, Smile is interesting because it was a lot better than I thought it would be. Based on the premise, based on the look of the robots, the emoji robots, and just the word emoji robots, I thought this was going to be absolutely terrible, and it wasn't. It was actually quite enjoyable for the most part. However, in comparison to the rest of the season, I think there were much stronger episodes, and where this episode fell down massively was the ending. It was one of those endings which just comes out of nowhere, and there was literally a button that the Doctor did something with a sonic screwdriver to one robot, which fixed all the rest. It was a cop-out at the end there. All the tension that had been built up was just kind of wasted. It was anticlimactic at the end, and if it wasn't for the end, this episode would be a lot higher in this rankings, but that end really let it down, I think. Number 10, we have The Lie of the Land, the other end of the Monk 3-parter. This was another big anticlimactic mess, I think. I don't know, the whole premise of the world under the control of the monks was wasted, in my view. It wasn't done to the best of its ability. It wasn't done as exciting enough as it could have been, and I think a lot of that was the time constraint, and they didn't have enough time to develop it enough. The fake out regeneration was a bit annoying, and generally I quite liked the beginning part of it when you didn't know where the Doctor stood. You thought he was working for the monks, but actually it was a trick. And yeah, it was all a bit rushed and a bit of a disappointment after what I actually thought was a brilliant middle episode of the trilogy. But we'll get to that in a minute. At number 9, we've got The Eaters of Light. The Eaters of Light just felt like a bit of a filler episode to me. It was between that Monk trilogy and the end of the series and the kind of arc that we'd built up for that. It just kind of felt a bit fillery, and it had that very much a fillery vibe. And the story just wasn't that exciting. I don't know what else to say, really. It was just a bit kind of meh. It wasn't a bad episode. Most of these aren't. It was just kind of At number 8, I have Thin Ice. I remember thinking this was very good when I first watched it. I liked the episode, and I liked some of the themes it explored, and I liked the punching of the racist guy. That's always good. The problem was that it was almost all the themes, all the beats to it. A lot of it was very much similar to The Beast Below, which was an episode we'd had a few years before. Captured creature, being exploited by humans, it felt very similar, and I think that was what let it down. It just felt like we'd seen it all before a bit. I liked the elements of the kind of the sort of dealing with racism in quite a head-on way that Doctor Who doesn't do very often. I quite liked that, but because of that repeated sort of themes and the repeated plot devices that we'd seen before, I don't know, it just wasn't that great. However, one of the things I will say about it has one of the best performance of children that I've seen in modern Doctor Who. Often when we get children in modern Doctor Who, they are annoying and they are whiny and they just can't act. These kids were brilliant. They could act and they did a fantastic job, and I was really pleased to see them get that big house at the end. And number 7, the pyramid at the end of the world. Yes, the middle part of that Monk trilogy was the best. I thought the drama, the tension was built up perfectly during that. I was very tense. You knew something was going to happen in the lab. You could sense, why else would they introduce those characters? But the way they kind of cut between them and the Doctor, and you saw it the things get gradually worse. Somebody have a hangover, somebody lose their glasses, break their glasses, and you knew something was going to happen there. Combined with the Monk's interaction with the Doctor, it all kind of like, it was good at building the tension, and I thought there were some great character moments in there between Bill and the Doctor, and some brilliant guest work acting, and just, overall, really good episode. It's just a shame that it was bookmarked by the other 2 really bad episodes, but there you go, that's life, and that kind of brings it down a bit overall. It would have been higher if it had been, if those other 2 episodes hadn't brought it down. At number 6, we have the pilot. Premiere episode of the season. I thought this did a brilliant job of introducing anyone that's picked up on it to Doctor Who generally, and that was part of the point of it. I thought that would do a brilliant job of hooking them in, and it did something that Doctor Who hadn't done since Rose, which was introduce us to the Doctor from the companion's point of view. We hadn't really seen that since Rose, and I think it was the right time to do that, sort of 12 odd years into the run of the new series, and it did it brilliantly. And Bill is she came across instantly as such a brilliant character, likeable, not a sort of plot device, an actual character who looked like she had development in the past and would have development in the future, and that was good. I think it did a brilliant job. I wasn't too keen on the puddle monster, Heather. I quite liked seeing the Daleks briefly, and cutting into a bit of classic Who mythology with the Mavelian War. That was a nice little bit, and I thought it left a good feeling in my mouth for the rest of the season. I thought this is going to be a okay season, and this is going to be a brilliant season, in fact, is what I thought, and I wasn't proved wrong, which is nice. Number 5, we got Knock Knock. Now, I wasn't too keen on the rest of the students and their personalities. I thought they were very stereotypes. They were kind of cardboard cutouts, effectively. But one of the shining lights of this episode is David Suchet, who was fantastic and an amazing performer in this, and deserves all the respect he gets. And that scene where he's holding his wooden mother near the end and crying, that really tugged on the heartstrings. I thought that interaction between them was brilliant, and it was a lovely story in the end. But yeah, it's David Suchet that really elevated that one up for me. I'll have to say now, it's very close between my top 4. They are some brilliant episodes in there, so by all means, tell me I'm wrong in the comments below, but this is the way I struggled over this, of which I knew which one I was going to put top, but the sort of 4 to 2 were they kept on swapping around in my ranking for a bit. But this is the way I went. And number 4, The Doctor Falls, the season finale. It was great seeing John Sims' Master again. I loved his Master. He is my favourite Master. I did think, though, that he was a little bit wasted in this. I loved him when he was dancing around with Missy on the rooftops, and I loved his interaction with Missy, full stop. That was the only bit that made it worth him even being there, because he didn't really affect the plot in many other ways. So I love that, and I love the interaction with him with Missy. It was great seeing the classic Cybermen. I didn't like the way they brought in the more modern Cybermen, so there were things I liked and things I didn't like about it, which is why it's not higher up. But overall, I liked what they did with Bill as a Cyberman. I thought they played that really well. And it was only at the very end of the episode which I felt they kind of ruined it a little bit. But there was a lot of good stuff in there, and that's why it's so high up on my ranking. And number 3 is the Empress of Mars. Now, I never thought I would rank a Mark Gatiss episode this high up in a rare season ranking. Generally, Mark Gatiss episodes are my worst of the season. I do not like Mark Gatiss episodes generally. Power of the Daleks was terrible. Power of the Daleks? Is it called Power of the Daleks? The one where the Mighty Morphin Power Daleks. The one with the wire from season 2. He's written a lot of episodes I really don't like. But this one was one of my favourite, and fair play to him. He did a brilliant story with the Ice Warriors. I think he can write the Ice Warriors really well, actually, though he did quite well with Cold War as well. And it was an interesting story, seeing the sort of take on the British Empire and how they react when they get and meet these Martians. I thought it was really interesting. A lot of good stuff in there. And a lot of good. I thought the guy that played the captain, is it the general, colonel, captain, whatever rank he was, the leader of the alcoholic leader of the British Army, was a really interesting character. And it was good to see that developed. And I liked the kind of moral dilemma situation that the Doctor was in. That the humans are effectively the bad guys in this because they are the invaders here, and yet he knows that the Ice Warriors could wipe them out like that. And because of that, he's like, well, I can't let them just wipe them out, but I can't help these guys, invade Mars. So he's kind of caught in a moral dilemma. And I love that kind of moral dilemma stories that the Doctor sometimes gets put in. Great story. Number 2 is Oxygen. This was, without a doubt, an amazing episode. I loved the themes it explored. I loved the way it was shot. Some of the visual stylings on that were beautiful. The director definitely has to be applauded for their choices there. And it was so good. And the way the Doctor solved the issue kind of at the end and then got them all out. The whole using capitalism against itself to try and save them. I love the themes of it. I love the visual storytelling, and there were some great character moments between the Doctor and Bill, which is a running theme through this series. There's lots of great character moments between those two, but it really, really went well here. And the fact that they introduced this thing that would carry over, this implications of this episode carried over for several episodes later, the blindness, which is not something we see. Something happened to the Doctor like that, and it lasts more than the 45 minutes of that episode. Usually it's all solved and wrapped up by then, or it's a multi-parter and it's the next episode or whatever. But to see it carry on, the consequences of a story carry on like that, was really interesting as well. So that is why it's so high up, and it's such a good episode. I love it. And at number 1, World Enough and Time. I mean, Oxygen was an amazingly episode, yes, but oh my god, this is fantastic. The themes it explores and of body augmentation, and augmenting our bodies to survive, the way it was shot, the kind of timey-wimey use of the being near a black hole and how time moves differently at one end of the ship to the other, and how they shot that. And how they showed us a bit of Bill and then a bit of the moving, and it was just so good, and also great to see the sort of origins of a type of Cybermen that are so classic and iconic. It was let down slightly by the next part, Dr. Falls, but only slightly. Dr. Falls is still quite high up there in my rankings, but it's just nowhere near as much as this. World Enough Time was a fantastic episode. So there you go, that's my ranking. What was yours? What's your top of the season, and what's your worst? Let me know. We'll put your whole ranking if you want to in the comments below. Love to hear it. Do you agree with me? Do you not? Let me know. I will be back for another video soon. But I now have to go and pick up my daughter from nursery. So I'll see you soon. Goodbye.